Okay, guys, back with a look now at the Nasdaq 100 here. Now, this is a little bit different than the S&P, similar shaping. We don't have that ridge of 618s that we had in the S&P. Now, looking here, it's a little tricky for the Elliott trader because we seem to have a series of fives following five. So, was suggested in earlier videos when we were looking at this, there's a pretty strong case for a significant top to be in here. Now, is it the absolute top? I'm ready to go there yet. But so coming off of that, so we get this nice diagonal that completes it. Then coming down here, boy, it's hard to see that as anything other than an ABC that completes. Well, given that we follow it with this 3 and then another 5, it doesn't look as much like, so you might think, oh, 3, 3, 5. It doesn't look as much like a, I mean, it could be here, but so ABC, I think we're more likely, we've just put in a W here. We get a nice counter trend X wave here. It's not, ideally you want the X wave deeper than that. I run into this so often. The Elliott International wants it up here 80, 90%. That might be the buy the book. I see so many of these that I will call that more of a guideline in my mind. So if this is WXY, well, if this is accurately identified as the X and we aren't just in a flat, wait, either case is a little bit problematic. So if this is the X wave, then we're trying to finish an ABC. Well, this would have to be the B wave, and it's a little bit of a stretch to get that into an ABC. So AB, then we've got a clean 5 to finish here. It's not ideal. That symmetry is not how you would script it. But note here, if we go swing high to this swing low, here's the 50. But if we're measuring on the assumption that that's the A, well, so first thing you'd measure here is from this to here, right? We got through, I think that's 887. We got through the 786 here. It doesn't disqualify, so we stay with an internal retracement. But I would start checking some of these others here, looking to see, because we're always trying to identify what did the algos do last. Well, swing low, swing high, here's the 50. Could that be going down to this target? Well, it certainly could. The piece of this that's a little bit troubling is that if we're trying to work this out as an ABC, right, rather than 1, 2, 3. Seems more likely here given what we're seeing. So if this is the B wave, if this is correctly identified, then I've got a clean 5 coming down, which would set up, if this is A and this is B, if we're going to finish this as a C wave, then we've just got the 1 wave in, potentially the 2, 3, 4, and 5 coming down here. Let's get that, change that color here, bear with me. That'll work. Okay, so if this is 1 that's just completed, and this little kick off of that low is setting us up for the 2, well, we're looking for, do we have any confluence? So if we look here from that low, if that is correctly identified as the 1, well, we got the 38. So you got a couple of things here. So here's the point of control off of what we're looking at here. So essentially from this entire move down, well, here's the point of control sitting right at the 50. So that gets my attention. So as a contender, there's the Vegas wave right there. So you'd literally be splitting the Vegas wave at the 50 at the point of control. Now, I'm here on a 4-hour. We don't have great subdivision, although potentially now what's going in, this is the A wave, little retrace being the B. If we're going to get another kick for the afternoon, that would set up the 2, which would set up the 3. So this is an area to be paying attention to, and you've got some structure here, as you can see. Some of these prior pivots here, so I'm just grabbing this one here and this one here. Potentially now that's some resistance, prior support, now it sets up as the potential resistance here, support here. You can see this has been a critical level to the market. So how do we respond when we get up here? If we make the turn, then I get more confident in this count that that's a 1, 2 going in, and we know the 3, right? So we know the 3 likely. So here's our shorthand, the negative 100. Something like this might let us finish that ABC down here. So that would give us the ABC that we'd be finishing is here would be the A, this would be the B, and we'd be going after that is the C. So where does that put us in the broader scope of things? Let's go back to a daily and think about that. Well, if this is a substantial top and we've got all the ingredients, that's the 5 of the 5 of the 5 of the 5. right? First swing down, right? And look how the golden zone has been resistance here. So if we put this thing together and say, well, could that, what else could be going on here? Maybe that's overly ambitious to think that this is just corrective here. Well, we certainly have this 50. So if we look from this low to this high, well, here's our 50, here's our 38. So this, you got, boy, hard not to like this right here. Reasonable spot to expect so a reaction here. So you'd have the 50 and the second algo target as a contender there. So if this is going to finish, so this now, so you have a couple of things here. If this is the major cycle high up here, then this is just getting started, and we may get a substantial sell-off. It's too soon to go there yet. I've got a completed 5-wave structure here. So first place I'm looking here is at the 50. Looks like here's a prior 3-4, so it's common to come back to a 3-4 of a degree lower. So that's a reasonable spot to look for a bounce here. Now you can kind of look, say, well, remember this is visible range. So looking at this, here's where all the volume is down here. All right, so there's point of control that's tied to all of this trading here. So as we're looking at this, you got some, here's potentially some support right here in conjunction with this, just pulling it over. So you've got some market, and then you got some low volume nodes on both sides of that. So this looks like a reasonable target down here, actually. The more I look at that, so if I go back to the 4-hour, so how are we going to get there? Do we have the ingredients here? Well, that would mean we'd need a bigger move here. If that's going to go 1, 2, we're coming down here. All of this certainly within the realm of possibility here. Nothing says we have to stop here. So this could finish like this. So we'd have 1, 2, 3 in this range, 4, 5. All right, so we'd be looking for that to finish it. Doesn't seem terribly unreasonable, and we know we've got some fat targets down here. So this being 50, I'll call it 5,800. Looks like a reasonable target to be shooting for here, on the assumption that we're going to come into a 2 here and get a pivot. So the setup here is to trade the 2 into the 3. So you've got first you've got the larger degree algo target here. Do you see this green is tied to the swing high, swing low to this 50. So that's off of this 50. We know an algo's kicked in there because I've just dominant high to dominant low. There's a 50. They're after that. Doesn't mean they have to get it, but that's what they're after. And we've already taken out this low here. We're beyond the 65. So the algo play here that's in sync with the Elliott count is the short here at the 50, looking for a minimum target of this. So if I open that up, so you can see it a little bit better. So this is the 50 that algo kicked in on. So if we come up here and we get a pivot at the 50, well, you're going to have the first target being, if this is here, there's first target. But we're looking for this to go beyond just first target. We're looking to get a third here, which would put us down here at the larger target. Do you see that? So this would be 1, 2. So even if we just do it this way, so if I take the length of the 1 on the assumption that's in, and we're going to pivot here at the 50, which I don't have this, as I'm just speculating here. If we go to the 618, well, then we got this zone down here. So we don't know. So we have to get that pivot, but I'm getting a nice confluence zone down here at this. Well, this would be, call it 61, 6,200 in that range. This 1618 is at 6,100. So if this goes 1, 2, 3, then that sets up the 4 and the 5. So the big tell here as to what happens when we come back into this prior area of support. Now, is it kicking as resistance? If that's our 2 and we start to come down, well, we can project with more confidence. Here's the minimum target here of 100, the length of the 1. So here's a reasonable target for that third wave. So it's kind of the same thing with the S&P. If you're going to take this trade, well, so be mindful of the fact you're going to have to post the margin to hold that, because that could be it could be a month getting there. We don't know, right? Could do it next week. It's just there's no way to know. So you got to prepare for that to tie up assets there for that length of time, or you're doing it with options, right? One or the other. So you're not tying up so much capital. That's the alternate, right? So when the market comes up here, always better if you were looking at constructing an option trade with a short delta. You always want to do that when the market's coming up, so you get better pricing. So 1, 2, 3 coming down, 4. So if this is going to hold, this will be significant. If that holds as our 1 low, and just this whole zone here, we can kind of look at that All right, what happens when we come back down here? All right, if are we coming back down here? Do we hold for support again? So interesting times, right? Very technical, all looking very good. Right, not quite as clean as the S&P because of this proposed B wave. I'm just a little iffy on that, but I think potentially now that can play. So what will be the tell? What happens here? Do we hold the 6.5 here? If we do, that's a good sign, even though we know a 2 can be higher than that. We saw it here. We were thinking maybe this was 1, 2. Right? But if the X holds, that's AB. All right, guys, so that probably give you enough to chew on there. So I certainly would be paying attention to what happens here. Let's call it 68. Let's call it 68.80. That will be a tell. All right, guys, I think I got one more, and then I'll be back in a bit.